Hello everyone and welcome to the final round of GPVWC Atlantic Series here at Circuit of the Americas. Sorry for coming in a bit of a late commentary, but this time around I'm here on my own once again. I'm Kacper Kolodziejczyk, and on cameras we have Argo Teder, sorry, and we are already 6 minutes from the end of qualifying, with most of the drivers actually having their laps finished, and I think the most interesting ones are already finished. So that's something to talk about. We have championship, which is still up for grabs for 2 drivers, and this is going to be a fantastic race. We have with the series of rules. It's very interesting in qualifying, but it also makes it, in my opinion, just a bit difficult to commentate on. But it is very, very interesting to see whenever drivers make a mistake and they have to recuperate a lot quicker than most other series. Since you only get 3 timed laps and they have to be in a row, they have to be one after another after another. You can only have one run from, well, unless you don't even start a timed lap, or I think if you abort the first timed lap technically and come into pits, you can still do, I think, 1 or 2, but basically you have a limit on how many laps you can do, and there's a lot of strategy playing into it. And for example, if you go out later, there's usually a lot more rubber, because even though, or actually no, this is not a private qualifying, I nearly always forget this, but even if it was, by the end, there's always a little bit more rubber and a lot more grip, even though you wouldn't think it. But at this point, it looks very interesting, as I said, for the championship, since we have our second place man in front of our first place man, and they're actually very close to the point where Wopke, our second place man, could actually possibly take this championship if they actually finish this race in this order. But with that a bit later, some drivers are doing very well, but I'm seeing that some are a bit disappointing. For example, Nico Barclay, very far back in 17th place on his final timed lap. And with that said, we only have a couple more drivers on the track in general, and this is the problem with this type of qualifying, in my opinion. But it's very interesting by the end for the drivers who do decide to come out later, how much it actually counts for. So, for example, one of the drivers who used that to his advantage is seemingly Dino Paolini, who's currently our pole sitter and who's currently on his final timed lap, possibly. And he's actually 1/10 of a second in front of Wopke Hoekstra, who's currently in second place. And all the other drivers are currently, I need to quickly check, but I don't think they're doing anything really, really amazing compared to any other drivers. Now, what I was saying, the only driver who can really, really mess things up in the front is possibly David Junt, looking at his first sector. David Junt, who last race did really, really well. Started off from the very back and finished, I think, 6th. So he'll be looking for a very good result at the end of... Well, he actually gave up on this lap, must have made a mistake. So saving his tires, trying another go. But with that, he's, I think, one of the only drivers who's going to be looking at a very high place start. Maybe Menno Klant, who has done quite bad first sector and quite okay middle sector. So all the drivers around who are now are kind of just midfield, or maybe David Junt possibly slightly higher, will all come to... it will all show itself by the end. Another driver I would actually really be surprised if he can do pull something out of the bag would be Argenis Riera, but he is starting his first timed lap, and I think he'll get 1 more. Well, technically he will get 2 more after this. Oh no, sorry, 1 more. Yes, 1 more time lap after what he has right now. Goes a bit sliding for the first sector. And by the way, Dino Paolini did not improve, so he's now currently pole sitter with 1/10 of a gap to the second place man. And there's still again, there are a couple drivers still on track. David Junt and Menoklant being the more likely to score, to seemingly do a good lap currently. Although Mark Wicks, you should never count out any driver really, but he's not currently doing anything significant when it comes to sector times. But that said, so the interesting bit about championship, and this I'll again try and talk further into the championship standings on top of this, on top of the leaderboards at the moment. But at the moment, it looks like Borja Milan would be, I think, just slightly in front of Wopke Hoekstra if he finished 5th and Wopke finished 2nd. But if Wopke wins, and we've seen his starts, unless Borja finishes on the podium, he actually can take the championship. So this is going to be very, very interesting. And I think definitely Milan will be attempting to get that podium, and it will be... It's likely for him to get it, considering his earlier pace this season. And I think it's Milan has not really shown speed at every circuit when it comes to completely outright domination, but he has shown absolutely amazing consistency throughout the season. And currently, it appears like, actually, as I was saying, David Junt is up to 5th place, and I think he gave up on his final time lap, and he could mess things up currently, considering he is in front of Milan and in front of Barkley, who actually did improve later on after the bit disappointing times at the very beginning. So that's David Junt actually messing up in the possible championship standings later on. But he's also fighting for his own place, which I will come to later. But at the moment, the only 2 drivers still on their laps are Argen Sierra, currently in 8th place, and Menoklant in currently 11th place on his final lap. Menno is not improving in 1st or 2nd sectors, so I think he's going to... I think his tires may just be... at this point, not quick enough to be able to do so. But Argen Sierra is actually going quicker in the middle sector. And actually, in fact, he's going very quickly. So it's very possible that Riera may take one of the top spots at this very moment. Maybe 3rd, 4th place is my guess currently, and that could mess the championship up even more, or championship headache for Milan even further. Does have a driver leaving? Or Argen Sierra did unluckily have a really bad last sector compared to all the other front runners. So Argen Sierra only goes up to 7th place and only behind Milan. And that is our qualifying, and it looks fairly interesting for the championship. Definitely, I really am looking forward to the race. This should be very, very good. And I'll go through the starting order later on, but at this point, it looks like Dino Paolini is our pole sitter, unless I'm missing a penalty, which I shall check right now because I've seen there's a lot outstanding penalties. There are a lot, sorry. But that said, it looks very good for Wopke Hoekstra. He'll be very happy with that 2nd place, and I think with his atomic starts, because that's the only way to describe it. Unless Paolini pulls something out of the bag, there's just no way he can defend against something like this. But of course, this is a different track than any of the others, and the first corner will be very, very interesting for that Mazurek number 15, who will be attempting to get a win. And at this rate, I think I can start talking about championships properly, except Junt actually gets a 5-slot grid demotion, so that's one less place for Milan to worry about. So that's actually, so David Junt is actually going to be starting slightly further back than I thought he will. Apart from that, there's no driver that really will be worried. Well, actually, Argen Riera does have a penalty as well. He has a back of the grid demotion, so he will be back. His 7th place will not stand. So at this rate, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think Yunt will start in 9th. And Jordan Weeks also has a back of the grid demotion, so he was 4th in qualifying, and that'll be very interesting. He will have to manage that one out and going through the field. And I think that's all the drivers that really matter. Alexander van der Velde also has a back of the grid penalty, but he was in the very back. And that's really it. But with that said, let's go over the standings currently, because that's very interesting. And this is the final round of the season, I must remind you. And we have Borja Milan currently in the lead by 17 points. And to give you the idea, there are 50 points to be had in any single race here in Atlantic Series. And 50 points for first, 40 for second, and 35 for third, and then it goes to 32, 30, and goes down by 2 all the way up to 10th. And further just goes down by 1 until 5. And every single finisher in this series does get points. So at this point, well, it looks like Milan will have to finish in, at the very least, I think, 3rd to definitely win the championship. While Wopke has to basically win it to nearly guarantee it, unless Milan actually gets the. Now I look at it, yes. Oh, actually, no. He actually needs to get 4 to win. No, okay. Yes, he has to get 3rd or higher, because if Wopke wins, he will have more wins. So they're currently tied at wins, and it's just that. Milan is slightly more consistent throughout his races. So this is going to be very fascinating. I think the battle will be very good to the very finish. We have another 7.5 minutes of warm-up or so to go. So with that said, let's go down the standings a bit further. Dino Paolini currently is out of the running for the championship. He's currently in 3rd with 54 points to Milan. And he technically can challenge Wopke Hoekstra, but that is very unlikely considering Wopke's amazing drives this season, really, especially in 3 of the rounds where he finished twice. He finished 1st, and once he finished 2nd, of which twice. I think the twice he did. Whenever he does start from this. Around the top 5, he has absolutely an atomic start. So this will be very interesting. Because in those 3 races, he was leading by turn 1, if I recall correctly. So with that said, Dino Paolini is could technically be under pressure from David Junt, who's currently in 4th place. David Junt is 26 points behind Dino Paolini. He, of course, has absolutely no chance of catching anyone else, but if Dino Paolini, by some miracle, starting from the pole, has a really bad race, or doesn't finish, which hopefully he will finish, of course, it could very well mean that Junt could take the podium position. But behind him, very interesting is Roy Schroten, who currently has not had the best weekend, seemingly, or best race day. And he was 14th in qualifying or 13th, I'm not entirely sure at the moment. We'll see exactly on the starting grid anyway. But Schroten, after that fantastic 2nd place last round, I think will have to settle for a slightly worse position. But with that said, he currently is in 5th place, and his rival, who has the same amount of points as he does, he is not here. Michel D'Alessandro is actually in 6th place with the same amount of points as Roy Schroten, but he is behind. And he will not gain anything out of this race, considering he's not here. But behind that, we have Lazarus Filipiakos, who's under challenge from Van der Sloot, who's not here. Well, yes, so that is Filipiakos, who's going to possibly be taking 5th place, actually. 6th place. 6th. So, with that said, I think that's really all that counts in this end of the season. That could be very, very interesting by the end, especially those battles for first and possibly for third between Pauline and Yun, and possibly for fourth between Roy Schotten and Yun. So, all things to come and should be very, very interesting. Just, you have to watch out for those couple drivers. But it seems like this series does bring some really fantastic races. So either way, I think we will end up with a really, really good race. Coda, there are a couple places which you can actually overtake on, and I think with the nature of these cars, which have absolutely amazing amounts of slipstream, I think we can be talking about absolutely fantastic battles between a couple drivers who will be struggling to get out of the very slow hairpin onto the back straight and attempting an overtake into the very slow left-hander at the end of it, in where around Paolini was about 10 seconds ago. So we have that straight, and then we will also, I think, we have a lot of main straight attempts at an overtake. That straight is very, very interesting. There's a slow exit, even though you would think it should be fairly quick, but by the nature and by the camber on it, it causes the cars to be very, very slow, and because of the elevation changes for the most part. So if that said, I think if a driver can close up to the driver in front of them, I think they can challenge them into the first corner with that amount of slipstream. And that first corner has proven it is definitely one of those corners where you can overtake, and it is a possibility. And then, even if you go side by side, it is still not the end of the world. If you're on the outside of turn 2, I have seen overtakes on the outside of turn 2, and I think if you have watched, I think it was Super League here at the VWC, I think there were a couple drivers who actually did manage an outside overtake around that corner, or I'm not sure if it was here or if it was real life now. All of those things just a little bit too close to each other. But at the moment, just to update on paces when it comes to warm-up, which are not always that significant, but Milan is showing a very, very good pace of 42s as well. So this could be very, very interesting once they get racing. Strategies, I think, will be very similar to what we see usually around here, which is a single stop. And I'm just checking the chat quickly, and yes, all of the penalties will be rolling onto the next next round. Well, next season, then at that rate, if you have any penalties from this round, or if you haven't served one thus far. And that is the way. That is why, even at this point, you don't want to, in qualifying, go outside of track boundaries, because even the next season you don't want to start with back of the grid penalty, which is very much a penalty no one really likes to have, considering it basically nullifies anything you do in qualifying. But also, it also is a very fair assessment of everyone has to drive fairly, and everyone has to keep within the circuit borders. Quickly checking, but yes, definitely Borja Milan quite a bit quicker than David Junt, currently in second when it comes to just their warm-up practice. But again, warm-up is a very weird session where people try out their starting, and of course they do try out their racing pitting in, and similar. Yes, I think it will be a single stop for tires and fuel around the midpoint of the race, considering they do have to make a stop for fuel. If I recall correctly, they just don't have enough on board to be able to make it on a single drive. I think the tires will not last, even if they did. so they do have to change them unless they suddenly decide to drive on the prime tire, which is, as far as I know, way too slow. Or at least I think it is going to the next season. That would seem like a fair assessment. When it comes to penalties, I know it's from round to round, even if you don't drive, which I personally do have a back of the grid penalty from World GT, I think it is, from Spa this year. Haven't driven there since. But we are getting to the point where we're about to start racing. In just a minute or so, we should be starting our formation lap. This will be very interesting, and this will be a very nice decider. I really hope that we will see a proper fight for deciding in the championship. Of course, it can't be between the two drivers, because it would mean that Milan easily takes it. But we will hopefully have a good drive from both drivers, and giving them the best good they have. As we had our R Factor man, of course, as always, shouting our readiness. And we will be getting to, we are going to the grid, and we will be getting on the formation lap in just about 10 seconds now. And wow. Even though apparently Davidson did have a penalty according to the system, he has not actually had to do it, which is very interesting. So he will be starting a lot higher than I thought he will be. But with that said, we are off to our formation lap. Dino Paolini here currently in third place in the standings on pole. He'll be taking us to the final round from the very front of the grid. Wopke Hostra hoping for the championship from second place, with Fran Lopez in third place, a very good qualifying from Fran, with David Tunt in fourth place, and with Nico Barkley in fifth. Borja Milan in sixth. He will be attempting to win that championship from here and just keep the lead if you can, with Dennis Jordan in seventh. Eighth for Andrzej Borotowski, with ninth for Menoklant, 10th for Mateusz Bogusz, and 11th for Rose Schutten, our second place man last round. Wesley Stefano is 12th place. I don't really recall the name. He's a new star around here. And we have Thomas Hinz, who actually hasn't gone to the grid. So something wrong with Thomas Hinz not starting from the grid. At best, he will be starting from the pits. But at the moment, he is not on the grid. He's just sitting there in the pits. With Lazarus Filipakos in 14th, or effectively 13th. 15th for Mark Wicks, 16th for Tobias Olsen, 17th for Gerrit De Vries, with Gerard van der Weide in 18th place, and Jordan Weeks in 19th, 20th for Arjen Riera, 21st for Alexander van der Woude. So if that said, I'm not entirely sure what is happening to Thomas Hinz. I'm just seeing his drag in pits. That's not a good sign, and after, well, it wasn't the best qualifying, but it was definitely better than starting from the back. At best, he will be starting from the pit lane. As the drivers are making their way to the final couple corners, Dino Paolini will be very much hoping for a good start, but it will be a tough task to actually keep it in front of Wopke Hostra, who we have seen again those absolutely amazing starts. And apparently Hinz has broke the Fac Fermé, so he will be starting from the pits. So that is the reason why Thomas Hinz is not starting from the actual starting grid. He did break the Fac Fermé. As we have drivers on their grid spots already, most of them. And Thomas Hinz is coming up to the red light, waiting for his go. Dino Paolini leaving quite a lot of room in front of his car on his grid slot, which means that Hostra will have even easier time. But we're just about to have our first red light start up. Yep. 2, 3, 4, 5, and off we go. And fantastic start from Hostra once again. Di Napoli not having quite the traction in, well, Hostra just in front as per usual. But now we have a bit of a contact between Yunt and Lopez, but Yunt in front of Lopez and possibly on the outside of Paulini into turn 2. Not quite able to do it. Slotting in between Lopez and Paulini with a bit of contact in between the two, but thankfully Lopez able to hold it together. Drivers behind already slotting in, but I'm seeing Van der Weide and Olsen possibly having a bit of contact. There's a bit of side-by-side action on the very rear between Van der Weide and De Vries, but outside from that, we have a bit of a mess there with Weeks making mistakes as we have spinners, Van der Weide, Wicks, and who else was that involved? Oh, that's Weeks without a front wing. He can't quite keep it together. I think it was Riera who's... or no, it wasn't Riera. It was one of the other cars that was brightly colored. Possibly Hinz involved? Either way, Van der Woude. Alexander Van der Woude without a front wing as well. So multiple cars involved there with damages to quite a few. Hopefully, most of them will be able to continue. It looks like they all are driving currently and will have to pit in. But with that said, just as I expected, Wopke Hostra doing an amazing start, and he's already into the lead with over a second of a gap. But with that said, we have a bit of a battle between Schroten and Boratowski. They were side by side for a final couple corners. Now we can actually look at this little bit of a battle, and Boratowski just on the very back end of Schroten. Really nice little battle, very well controlled distance judgment of the distance. And now I think Boratowski will have a nice little run into turn 1. As I said, those cars have a lot of draft that they can use in a very, very effective manner. But now Schroten has the inside of turn 1. Can Boratowski try a bit of an undercut? I don't think so. Not at this point of the race at the very least. With the very fresh tires on all of those cars. But this is a very good battle to watch out for, and Schroten goes sideways in quite a few places, and honestly, Schroten has gone up quite a few places from the very start of the race. So Schroten having a brilliant start, in fact. And apparently one of the drivers did, in fact, already retire, and that's Jordan Weeks. Jordan Weeks retires from the race with the damage he had. I'm not entirely sure if there was anything more, but possibly just damage was too far gone. But with that said, there's a battle for 5th place between Yunt and Barkley. Now that was a quick change. Barkley did quickly overtake on the backstretch. Again, it's one of those places where it's easy to overtake, just on the basis that it's such a long straight, and these cars have so much straight line speed, or straight line draft really. As I'm seeing contact between Klont and Boratowski, and wow, there's a lot of things happening behind. That's a spinner, that's a spinner, that's a spinner. Bogusz, thankfully everyone avoided him, but that was very close. Okay, lots of battling, lots of distractions. But at this point, I think we're starting to get a bit better separation between drivers. I would hope. In terms of, well, there's, at least I can look at 1 or 2 battles. But at this point, I think we are actually getting a bit of separation. Yes, so it very much looks like we do. But at this point, it looks like the one driver that will need to be on the lookout will be David Yunt, who has Roy Schroten right on the back end already. And Roy last time around was, I think, about a half a second quicker. Yes, that is a second quicker than David Yunt. So Roy Schroten absolutely on it with pace. Not quite the greatest in qualifying, but of course qualifying is not everything, and I think Roy Schroten is showing that at this very moment, and he is slowly catching up to Yunt. But now I think Barkley is running away from Yunt, and Yunt is just not quite able to get his speed up. And that is Schroten already really close, but it seems like that gap is not going down as quickly as he probably would like. Of course, it will be quite, and could be difficult to overtake, very much depending on how well he's set up for this. But with that said, one driver who is losing a lot and he's still under pressure and he seemingly cannot just... Although he is putting pressure now. One driver that can't seemingly keep his place is Borotowski, and he is already down to 10th place behind Meneklant, and Tobias Olsen is behind him. And last time around he was just a bit quicker, but I think now they're evened out on pace. But that said, Schoten on the back end of Junt, and this will be very crucial to go through here as quickly as you can through the S's, through the first sector. Second sector, you just have to keep close, but there are only slow enough corners, to be honest, except for one, really. And all you have to do is try to keep behind the driver and just be able to draft up and overtake on the long straight. I think that's the best opportunity that Schoten can have, but he now has to watch out because Dennis Jordan is on a charge right behind him, and Jordan is actually going quicker than both of them. So Jordan on a mission. But with that said, Schoten on the back end of Junt, on the outside, trying into the slow left-hander at the end of the back straight, and he gets hit from behind by Dennis Jordan. Oh no, that's not great. Dennis Jordan a bit a bit too aggressive on that, to be honest. It looks like just a bit too late on the brakes and hits Schoten, thankfully seemingly no significant damage. So that's Roy Schoten still driving right behind Junt, and he'll be probably attempting to overtake again later on. Now looking at it, there are a couple battles in the back end, but one driver that lost a lot of places just right now and a lot of time is actually Lazarus Philippakos. He very likely had a spin somewhere. I'll have to quick check, but he is already having some issues that I'm seeing. Yes, he has spun out. So that is Lazarus Philippakos, who actually did spin out and lost quite a lot of places and now is struggling with his tires. But now, I think we're closing up on a very interesting battle for the lead, in fact, because Hostra had a very good start, very good laps at the very beginning. But now, Dino Paolini is doing the best laps he has done so far this race, and Fran Lopez is doing the best laps of anyone this race. So those two are both closing up on Wopke Hostra, and it could end up being absolutely fantastic. They're within about a second of each other. We'll see once we cross the next timing beam. It's about 1.1 second between Paolini and Hostra, and then 8-9 of a second between him and Lopez. But this could very much end in a fantastic battle for the lead, and I think Borhamlen really would love to see that, considering, again, Wopke Hostra, and he has to win this race to take the championship. And at the same time, Borja has to finish 4th or lower, and I don't think at this point Milan will be finishing anywhere lower than 4th unless he makes a significant mistake, which we haven't seen many of this season. This time around, all three drivers though, very similar lap times, so I think the charge from Paolini and Lopez may have had died down slightly, but it's lovely to see the four front runners within 3.6 seconds. That's absolutely great. They're all within a mistakes length of each other. Dennis Jordan is still seemingly trying something on Schoten, but I think he's starting to drop off a bit, by the way. So that little battle is seemingly quite pretty much over at that point. And I think we're starting to die down. The one that's actually Jordan, maybe it's not as close to Schoten, but David Junt is definitely closer to Jordan than he was earlier. Although, was it Junt? Yunt will have to possibly pull something out of the bag. I'm not entirely, but he is going quite slowly, so there may have been an overtake on Yunt. I'm not entirely sure. And actually, Fran Lopez is closing down on Paolini, so that could be good news for Wopke Hostra by this point. And we have another retiree from the race. Alexander van der Velde is retiring from the race 5 laps into the final round. What I'm saying though, up in front still, Wopke Hostra making a bit of mistakes through the last sector, so it's possible that his tires are starting to go. And Paolini may just be slightly more sure on what he's doing, but it's also possible that Paolini is not quite able to use them to the same effect as Hostra can, so there's always that bit of a trade-off. But now we're down to just 0.8 of a second, and that gap is definitely closing down visually just as well as on the timing screen. First sector 2:10 script from Paolini. He'll definitely be trying to use this bit of more of slipstream he's gonna get. It's not gonna be much. It's not gonna be much until he gets within about 0.6 of a second. But now he's way too far to even use it really, so Hostra just having a lot better exit onto that back stretch. So it just seems like Paolini has a bit tighter lines from what I'm seeing, but again, he's now slower through the middle sector, so it's back and forth, back and forth. A driver that lost a couple places now due to seemingly a mistake was actually Bogus, who's now back in 15th. And seemingly he lost about 7 or 9 or 10 seconds due to possibly a mistake, and that's at least what it looks like. And I think we're gonna have about another 7 or 8 laps before we see the first really planned pit stops, although some drivers may decide to come in a bit earlier to get rid of those tires, and who knows, maybe even gamble a little bit for a primary tire, although I'm very, very doubtful that they will. At least any one of the front runners, I don't think sees the primary tire as the more harder compound as a viable option. Oh, that's actually a driver pitting in. That's Bogus pitting in, so that's very early. I don't think he's going to be able to make it on fuel even at this point, or maybe just barely. Let's see what his strategy is. He could be going for a two-stop strategy at this point. We have seen those this season, and they mostly don't really work out. They do sometimes work to a degree. I think David Yunt employed it to a somewhat successful degree at Mosport. It was. And what I'm seeing now is I think Paolini's tire is starting to die, considering Lopez is on the very back end of him and trying to move on the inside through the middle section, going to the third sector. And he's done it. Fran Lopez just overtook Dino Paolini in an absolutely insane manner. It was nearly slightly reminiscent of his move right here a few weeks ago in Super League in GPVWC. That time when he did finish, he actually made the move on the final lap, I think, in just a corner before that. But with that said, that's Fran Lopez in second place now with that bit forceful move, but he will be now closing down on Hostra. And Hostra, I think, will have to really, really watch out, since his tires seem to definitely be in a very bad shape, and Fran Lopez seems to, at this point, be in the best possible state. But the times have definitely gone up for Wopke Hostra, considering he was doing 143.3s whenever his tires were at their best at the very beginning, and now he's doing 44.5s, while Lopez currently, while making mistakes right now, did get a 43.9 last time around after best lap of his, and actually of the entire race, is a 43.079. So a bit of a charge, but in fact, Hoekstra is quite a bit quicker for the first sector, so possibly that move for Lopez could have affected his tires as well. Or it could just be that the first sector just goes to Hoekstra no matter what. It also happens that that could be a possibility, and I'm looking at it. Actually very much looks like it, considering the middle sector for Lopez was half a second quicker. But of course, it's not just about one sector, it's about the entirety of the lap, and I think Wopke Hoekstra is going to be a little bit slower. But, or maybe not even that much slower, because Paolini is already back onto the Lopez. It seems like Lopez is set up very specifically for that very slow, twisty section, and his car just doesn't like long straights. I'm looking at it, and it seems like half a second gone to Hoekstra in the final sector. Kind of seems to suggest to me that this car is very much a setup for the middle sector and nothing else. By the way, this car has actually, by the body language of the car, basically, it just looked like he could do a lot of a couple of the corners just a bit better right after the long straight. So it could also be that his tires overheat way too quickly. And it could be detrimental to his tire life, in fact, by the end of the race. So something to watch out. And tire life in R-Factor 2 is one of the biggest factors, considering it is simulated to a degree that I don't think any other sim does have. And it's very, very easy to absolutely destroy your tires by driving a bit too quickly. And Lopez is starting to lose quite a lot now, so possibly just not quite able to keep up, considering Hoekstra is now doing quicker times in the middle sector as well. So last time around it was the entire lap was a 144.4 and Fran Lopez's was 144.7. So not only that, but even through the absolutely insane middle sector, Lopez was losing throughout the entire lap. So at this rate, I think Lopez is going to have to watch out on for Paolini more than Hoekstra. As I'm actually looking, apparently Jared van der Weide is actually on the harder compound. So as I said, more of the back runners would ever really see it as an option more than anything. That's purely based on the pace that you get out of that tire. It's very useful for a long run, and if you don't want to pit in for tires for whatever reason, and just have a splash and dash by the end, more than anything, or a full refuel, but you don't want to waste time on tires. But it doesn't seem to be a very viable option for any of the drivers, as far as I'm hearing. I was steering throughout the season. That said, I think the closest thing on track. Oh wow, that's Filippenko spinning in the final corner. So Filippenko's not having a great race, to be honest. On my screen, he's missing a bit of his suspension, but I don't think. Oh, I think he does have a bit of. No, it's very difficult to see if he has suspension damage with his controller inputs, of course. But I think he's fine. His car seems to be okay, and it's just a graphical thing. Although he is very much wobbly. That could just be a controller thing, but I don't think I've ever seen him go that wobbly, so possible damage to the Lara. So Dennis Jordan still on the back end of Schoten, still can't deal with it. But he is within half a second, so Jordan is definitely putting pressure on Schoten, but Schoten is not giving up by any means. Times for pretty much all drivers are going up quite significantly, but they're evening out in groups. As we have Dino Paolini losing. Oh, he's still. I think I got confused a little bit. Something moved, but Paolini is still fine in third place. But I would be worried about Milan nearly catching him at this rate, although the paces are very similar for all of them. So unless there's some absolutely massive catastrophe happening in front, I don't think anything is going to change, considering Milan is actually slowing down now. compared to the guys in front, at least for the first sector. But what is interesting again is Jordan. I guess Jordan and Schroten is the most interesting thing on track at the moment. With Schroten right in front of Jordan, but Jordan now may just about have small enough gap to be able to overtake on the long straight. Let's see, very close. Can he get on troll quickly enough? Maybe. Now, drafting, part of this car, as I mentioned multiple times before. Can he overtake Schroten into the slow left-hander? No, he can't. He just cannot close down quickly enough. It's not possible for Schroten to, or for Jordan to just catch up on Schroten. So I think that's exactly why Schroten is such a blockade for Jordan, just not able to get through it. And at this rate, I'm still seeing that seemingly Lopez is finding a bit more pace currently, but that bit of pace is come and go, and I think it's going to go away once again. The difference was 0.2 between him and Kokestra last time around. So if there's anything more, I will keep you posted. One driver who actually just overtook Philippakis seemingly was Wicks as well earlier on, but now Wicks is much in front, so I think Philippakis having a really bad race, spinning left and right. So Riera up fighting with Olsen for 13th place. I think he's on a fresh set of tires, so this should be fairly easy on the main straight. Side by side, and I think he's going to have it before turn 1, or just about. On the inside of Riera, and he's got it. Clean through, and I think he's able to just pull away from here, but also could also have to move. No. That's Riera pulling away already. I think he's on a set of fresh boots. Yes, he is. So Riera on the first of new tire set of new tires, quite easily going by into 13th place. Another battle. Okay, so we have another battle for 11th place now that Riera, and that battle is over. Wesley Stefano is under attack from Boratovsky. Boratovsky, of course, showing that quite disappointing pace earlier on, but he's also in on a new set of tires, and it's on the inside, a bit later on the brakes, able to do it, just able to, and fits on the track and is off. So those kinds of overtakes at the moment are not too difficult for the drivers on the new tires, of course. And I think with that, there isn't really anything happening with Stefano, but there could possibly move for... No. I was thinking there could be a move by Jordan again on Schroten, but that battle, as I said, doesn't seem to be going anywhere. They are so close for the entirety of this race, and I think unless Jordan overtakes him before through the pit stops, I think it will be a very, very interesting and infuriating Dennis Jordan by the end. Just seeing that roadblock in front of him, that black Drake car. But now looking at everyone, I think Jordan can make a move again, possibly attack, but I think he's just not close enough. Although this time around it's a bit closer, but I think he's hitting a limiter or something on the outside into the left-hander, the slow left-hander after the long straight, after the back straight, and he just can't do it, can't hold it. But now Schroten makes a mistake, slightly locks up his wheels. He then slides. Has a lot of wheel spin, visible to the point where he left the marks on the road, and somehow is still able to keep it in front of Jordan. So Schroten still, again, that massive roadblock in front of Jordan. And now we have Schroten pitting in, so Jordan will definitely be very happy to see that. Now I think he's going to have an issue that Schroten will slightly undercut him. Although to be fair, it may not work considering these cars don't get a set of warmed up tires. You actually have to warm them up out of the pits. So who knows? Schroten could end up being in front or behind Jordan, and it'll be very fascinating. One driver which will definitely be happy to see halfway through, and he will definitely want to see more of himself in the same place he's in currently, is Wopke Hoekstra. I think he will be putting in soon enough, just to not allow Fran or Dino to undercut himself. But this could also be a double-edged sword, of course, as always. But we are at halfway point of the race once he crosses the line for the 15th time, as I have also incurred the recent pits from the back end of the grid. But that will be interesting to see when the leaders are going to come into the pits. And Hoekstra coming by the pit lane now. He's coming in. So that's our leader coming into the pits. And now, will any of his opponents come into the pits as well? Lopez, second place man, into the pits. No undercut from Lopez, no overcut from Lopez. This could be very interesting. And neither of the drivers overshot their pit boxes. And they're off once their refueling is done. And I think Lopez gained quite a bit of ground on Hoekstra, possibly. Not entirely sure until we see the actual... No, I think he's actually fine. But now, Hoekstra ends up in front of Jordan. Just barely. Wow, that shows you the difference between Jordan and... Wasn't Jordan in pits? No, Roy Schoten was in pits. Yes, there we go. So yes, that's Dennis Jordan now having to deal with Lopez behind him. So that's not going to help his chances with Roy. But I think now he's basically conceded his place to Roy, considering he has gone through once again. We also have David Junt and Wesley Stefano who were in pits. I think Junt is already out. So, and he's under pressure from Olsen, in fact. Junt on the fresh tires, but on very cold tires, and he is under pressure for 12th place currently from Tobias Olsen. But also Lopez just went through Dennis Jordan, just quickly looking at that. So he will be on pace for Hoekstra now. But with that said, I think we can still Dino Paulini in pit. So this is going to be, we'll see if the under or overcut works out better. Dino Paulini on his pit box, but I think honestly at this rate, Milan is actually leading the race. So Milan still hasn't pitted in yet, and neither has Nico Barkley. And Wopke Hoekstra goes by, and so does Fran Lopez. And Dino Paulini, I think, loses out more than he gained. So that, I think, an overcut was the wrong thing to do here. Honestly, from my perspective. And I think it was the best decision from Hoekstra and Lopez to pit in halfway through. Dennis Jordan pitted in, so did Thomas Hinds. So Dennis Jordan will come out, and does come out, behind Roy Schoten, just as I expected. That undercut did work for Roy to be able to definitely be in front. And that is a couple more places battling between each other. Hinds and Junt. Junt in front of Hinds now. I think Junt just out of the pits. And so is Hinds, to be fair. So it could have been just a quick little battle. And I'm seeing that, what are the times like? Hoekstra, base first sector of his own so far this race. So, and middle sector slightly worse than Fran Lopez, but I think he's still up on Fran. So Wopke doing a stellar job so far. And Milan in pits. So our championship leader coming into the pits will now have to ensure that he is third or higher. He'll be hoping, but I think that's going to be a difficult thing to do unless Dino Paolini lost so much. No, he hasn't. Dino Paolini is in front of Milan, but barely, or maybe not even. That is a battle for the championship here, possibly, but Paolini just on the better tires or on the warmed up tires took him out on the took him over on the outside of turn one. That's one I've not seen for I don't think for a while at the very least. So Paolini, very well done. He's now going to be holding on for the championship for Wopke Hoekstra. They are teammates, but now Wopke has to really watch out for Fran Lopez, who is in second place and who is doing who has done the quickest lap of the race of anyone again. So this could be very interesting, and we'll see if Wopke Hoekstra can hold him off. It's only 9/10 of a second at this point between the two in front. This could be championship changing. So we have two Mazuriks currently in battles. And currently, both of them, if they lose a place, that means that the championship changes hands. This is actually intense. Hoekstra on his way to possibly win this race, but there's still 12 laps to go after this one. So Hoekstra still having a massive job to do, and so does Milan, and so does Paolini. So, as everyone in the front, Fran Lopez is the only driver here who... Oh, wow, that is nearly the fastest lap of the race for Wopke Hoekstra. Wopke Hoekstra is definitely going as quickly as he can, and he is quicker. This is one of the most intense championship battles I think I've seen, and it's not even between the two cars, but it is definitely an intense one. And it is definitely an on-track battle between the two teams more than anything else. And Paolini is definitely doing his absolute damnedest to be able to absolutely take this third place, take it away from Milan. At this rate, Hoekstra will be hoping for Lopez to not overtake him, but to still stay in that second place. But now Lopez, right behind Hoekstra, fighting for that lead of the race. Hoekstra just trying to keep that inside line, but now Lopez on the outside, nearly driving into the back of Hoekstra, but keeping the distances pretty good, pretty well. Hoekstra able to keep it through the slow left-hander, but now we've seen Lopez able to attack here on the inside, and can he take it? That is a championship-changing move. That is Lopez in the lead of this race. That is, again, this is championship changing. Hoekstra will have to pull something amazing to be able to overtake Lopez at this point, but Lopez wasn't that much quicker than Hoekstra, and Hoekstra can definitely overtake him if he can just catch a glimpse of his rear wing and his draft. So this is still intense. This is very much the battle to the finish. Honestly, this is, again, absolutely immense. And Hoekstra, again, trying to keep behind Lopez, but Lopez now having a bit more of fresh air, clean air in front of him. He may be able to just run away, but we've seen his tires die a little bit quicker than Hoekstra's. So it's very possible that Lopez by the end will be struggling and Hoekstra will be able to take him. This is everything on the board. And of course, even if Lopez doesn't somehow manages to retire, that means that Hoekstra is not going to be happy. So all that Hoekstra wants to do is overtake Lopez. But I think at this rate, he's way too far to be able to challenge him. At this rate, we will see Bora Milan take the championship by 7 points. Or actually, sorry, by 10 points. He will lose 7 points to Wopke Hoekstra at this race at this point. But that is also... Now, let's say for Mazurik, Majeric seemingly, no matter what happens at this point, will take the championship for the constructors at this rate. But again, it doesn't really matter. So it doesn't really matter. Dino Polini, all that he wants to do is keep Milan behind. Hoekstra still keeping behind Lopez, but Lopez just able to inch out an 8/10 gap this lap around. Oh, this is intense. This is the edge of the seat stuff. And there's also another battle behind, seemingly, between Clont and Riera, but this is also slightly further at this moment. And there are a couple battles, and Shorten and Jordan are back out at it again. And Andrei Boratovsky is into the pits for his stop in that Carnau Sport. And so is Argenis Riera. So I think these were two stoppers. But at this point, half a second between Fran Lopez and Wopke Hoekstra in the first sector. So these two are still going to be battling it out. And Hoekstra having a better, similar exit actually to Lopez onto the back straight, but just not able to keep the gap of half a second. This is massive. Milan just not able to overtake Paulini, even though he's actually quite close. So could end up being that Milan just is, even though he is stuck behind Paulini throughout this entirety of the race, he could end up taking the championship. But now I see Lopez slightly struggling at the moment with his rear grip, so it's possible that Hoekstra will be able to overtake him in a bit of an unconventional place later on, considering I'm seeing Lopez just not able to keep his car in line. And honestly, Lopez running so wide, and he always does around here from what I've seen. So, oh, Lopez just not able to get the traction onto the main straight, goes wide again. Otherwise, he would have spun into the main wall, into the pit wall. But now Hoekstra on the very back end, better braking into the first corner, right behind Lopez, keeping him honest. And can Lopez hold off that win in Atlantic Series? I think it would be the first this season for Fran. Currently 2 for Wopke, 2 for Dino, and 2 for Wopke, 2 for Borja. Excuse me, that's a bit of a mistake. And 1 for Hillebrand, of course, that oval race at Charlotte. So all of the road races wins have indeed gone to Hoekstra or Paulini or Milan. There I go again. But Lopez will want to change that, even though that will mean the championship change. But I don't think he really cares at this point. He's racing for himself. He's racing for a completely different team, so who would really mind? And at this point, Hoekstra still not quite able to keep up, but Lopez again having trouble with that back end of his, just not quite having enough grip. And I think by the end, he may be struggling enough to the point where Hoekstra could be able to take that as an advantage towards himself. Although, who knows, maybe he will run out of tires. But at this rate, I think Lopez is in a far worse place. But now Lopez, behind Philippakos, who is going to have to get out of the way as he's being lapped, and he gets out of the way really in a nice and orderly fashion. Well done to Philippakos for good back marking. And not getting involved in the basically the championship fight, as that's what's on stake right here between Hoekstra and Lopez. And in the meantime, we did have another tire. We actually had a couple of retirements, I think. Well, I didn't mention them. One of them is only from about 3 laps ago or so, which is Jarl van der Weide. And we had Bogus retire about 10 laps ago. So, currently 4 retirements. And with 73% complete, nothing is sure in the championship here in the Atlantic Series of 2016. I think. Oh wow! This is actually a new. This is actually news in the battle of Shorten and Jordan. Jordan has actually gone through Schoten. This is something that took way too long for Jordan, but now I think Schoten will be trying to do the exact same back to Jordan. So this is going to be very interesting back there. And now I'm seeing that unluckily it seems like Hoekstra is starting to lose space in the middle sector towards Lopez. That's not great. Oh, he's losing a lot of pace. He's actually getting. He's actually possibly going to get. Or actually, no. Sorry. That was not as bad as I was saying. It was Milan I was watching. But Hoekstra is still losing pace. He's going slower than Lopez by half a second, but it was not as dramatic as I actually thought it would be. De Vries also getting out of the way in a safe manner, so good to see. As Hoekstra is still struggling, to be honest, with to keep up with Lopez, but Lopez could end up getting out of tires by the end of the stint, and again, it could very much end up with Hoekstra taking it on tires. But we'll see by the end. Lopez doing quite a good time still, only about 0.6 of a second slower than his best times, while Hoekstra is about a minute, or not a minute, a second slower. A minute would be a bit excessive, but there are a couple drivers whose their best laps were actually a minute down, but that's because it was a first lap incident. But with that said, I think I'm seeing Lopez struggling again, but again, it's just small struggles and it's not going to show itself until the very end, although he is taking some corners very wide, and I think the gap is visually shrinking. Again, it's a very back and forth gap. There could be possibly a driver under pressure, and that could possibly be Hinz from Borotowski. It is very possible for Borotowski to close down. He is about no, actually, they're about the same pace at this point. So it's possible for him to close down, but I don't think it will happen. Hoekstra, yes, it's 0.8 of a second behind Fran Lopez. That is the gap currently. And I think Lopez is starting to struggle in his tires because he's so much slower through the first sector. So much slower. That is 1/10, but it's visibly closing down a lot. He's struggling to get a grip through while going on the curbs, and now I think Hoekstra is going to try and smell that attempt at overtake and just smell that try to smell that victory. Well, he is smelling it. He really just wants that victory, really. But at this point, honestly, that victory doesn't really matter. Because Milan has actually gone through Paolini, so at this point, Hoekstra, even if he wins... Oh, I'm just seeing and hearing something. There is rain. Rain has come upon us, and it is... If it gets any... Oh, as Lopez... Hoekstra and Lopez are struggling for grip, so I think the rain is actually getting quite bad when it comes to grip, so we'll see if there are going to be any more pit stops. And yes, Hoekstra is pitting in. He's attempting a move, possibly an early stop for tires, just to get a possible advantage. He knows at this point, unless he does something absolutely radical, he has no chance of winning the championship. So he is going to try and make an undercut. Everyone will have to pay for for tires if it gets really bad, but we've seen that these tires will not go into themselves until very late. At least if you actually watched Indianapolis this year, Hoekstra was the best driver to really predict his pace at the and was able to win the race mostly on how well he, or not mostly, but partially because of how well he was able to pick the time to pit for tires. But I'm seeing all the drivers now struggling for any grip, just not able to quiet get it really at all. And Hoekstra actually came out in 4th place, would you believe, after the pit stop. So either way, he is in 4th, and if anyone else has to pit in, he is going to be in the best spot to win this championship, possibly even, or at the very least, the race. Currently, the 3 drivers on the wet tire are Wopke Hoekstra, Meloklant, and Lazarus Filipakos back in the last place. And now we see David Tuned, Wesley Stefano in pits for tires. But is that Stefano? Yes, Stefano is also going for the wet tire. This rain could possibly mean be again game changing by the end. Is Fran Lopez going to pit in for tires? He has to. At this point, he has to. If he doesn't, they're still going to drive on the slick tire. So at this point, Hoekstra. Oh, that's a spin from Barkley. Barkley in 6th place currently has spun, and Dennis Jordan has overtaken him. So that's Barkley back into 6th. This is very tricky conditions. It's getting worse and worse and worse from what I'm seeing. The sprays are getting quite big, and I'm hearing a crash. Oh, that's De Vries crashing on the entry to pits. Thankfully, he didn't block Barkley or anyone else who was coming in. So Barkley also into pits after that spin. I presume he feels like it is time for a new set of tires. Currently, Hoekstra. Let's see the times once we see the first sector fully. He is about a second quicker. Second quicker in a sector compared to Lopez, Milan, and Paolini. So at this point, Hoekstra is way too far behind to win this on pace alone. But if it gets any worse, but I don't think it will. I think Wopke Hoekstra has gone for the tires, but the gamble may just not pay off because I'm seeing a lot of bright blue skies, and at this rate, if that's the case, then this is the worst case scenario for Hoekstra. But we will see. There's still quite a bit to go. We still have 3 laps to go after this one is finished, so possibly the drivers can definitely finish on slicks, I think. But Lopez goes into the pits for a new set of tires, so I think it may actually have gotten to the point where the tires have gotten so potentially bad that it needs a change. Milan and Paolini not coming into pits. So I think at this point, Wopke Hoekstra is going to be in 3rd place, which is not going to be enough for a championship. And Milan would have to pit in at this point for him to even have a smallest chance of getting the championship. Lopez does indeed come out behind Wopke Hoekstra. Quite far behind, in fact. But at this point, this is very interesting. Hoekstra is going 8 seconds quicker than Dino Paolini in front of him. At this rate, he's going to catch up before the end of the race to his teammate, who I would assume will not give too many troubles to Wopke. And at that point, it's going to be a battle between him and Borja for the win of the race, which will not be a battle for the championship, because Borja will still be able to, I think, finish the race in front of Fran and in front of Dino. But that is all up for grabs. So if Borja actually pits in now, he's going to lose the championship. I think that's pretty clear. If Borja does not pit, he's going to possibly keep the championship, but I don't think he's going to win against Wopke. I think Wopke is on for the win of this race if everything goes well, because at this point Milan is barely moving. The times through the sectors are immensely different. If our cameraman is looking at Milan or Paolini, and now Hoekstra right behind Paolini, you can see the difference visibly. It's just impossible for Paolini or anyone else on a slick tire to just drive. But Milan still keeping it going. He knows that he has to keep it to the end to be able to win. He barely able to keep that car going. 2 more laps to go after this. Now Hoekstra is on the back end of Milan. Hoekstra going for very much a win in this race, but at this rate he is not going to be able to take this championship unless Milan makes a massive mistake or has to pin in for whatever reason. But I don't think at this point Milan wants to pin in under any circumstances. At this point, the only way that Milan is going to lose the championship is going to be Lopez and Barkley overtaking him. And at this point, Barkley, of course, will not overtake him. This is intense. And now Lopez overtakes Milan easily on the, of course, on the good tires, on the proper tires. And this is immense. But the kinds of times that Milan is doing are 20 seconds slower than his best times, which are about 10 seconds slower than Wopke Hoekstra. This is it's 10 seconds difference of between the tires of how much grip or how little grip there is on the slick compound. So yes, 10 seconds difference between the drivers on wet tires and on slicks. With that said, Wopke Hoekstra is going for a very sure win with Fran Lopez for a second place. The only question, as I said, at this very moment is, can Milan finish this race? Can he finish in third place? I think he can. I very much think he can. At this point, something monumental will have to happen for him to pit in, or for him to not win this championship. And at the pace he's going, I don't think there will be any troubles for Borja. He is struggling for any kind of grip, of course, but he is keeping the car intact. And that's all that he has to do for one more lap. Wopke Hoekstra on his final lap as well, in the lead with Lopez in second. This will be this will be a very close championship by the end. Could have been either one of those two. And at this point, I think it will be Milan. But Hoekstra is going to have more wins and is going to win this race. So Paolini spins, so that is definitely Milan. Definitely Milan in on top, unless Barkley decides to overtake him, which I very much doubt at this point that a teammate will overtake another teammate and losing him the championship. As Hoekstra makes a bit of a mistake, but at this point it doesn't really matter. Lopez is way too far to be much of a threat on the final lap. As Lopez barely keeps it together, just going sideways everywhere. But at this point, Hoekstra taking the final sector, and I think about to take the win for the third time this season. But unluckily, I don't even winning the races this season was not enough to beat Borja Milan if this is how it's going to end. And that's Wopke Hoekstra winning the final race of the 2016 Atlantic Series here at GPVWC. Well done to Wopke. I don't think there was much more he could have done. Fran Lopez comes in second, 1.6 seconds behind. Now, Milan, all he has to do is finish this race. All he has to do is not let his teammate through. And at this point, this is team play. Plus, I don't think Barkley even got to Milan by the line. No, that is Borja Milan winning the championship, finishing in third place here at Circuit of the Americas. So, Nico Barkley coming in fifth for Dennis Jordan, sixth for Dino Paolini, who had a really bad ending to this race on his option tires. Menoklant in 7th with David Junt in 8th, I think, at this rate. Borotowski finishing in 9th, Thomason's in 10th. 11th for Roy Schroten as it looks. 12th for Jens Riera, Tobias Olsen in 12th. 14th for Mark Wicks, 15th for Lazarus Vilpakos, and Gary De Vries finishes in 16th. Wesley Stefano is our first of the retirements. Jared van der Weide, Mateusz Bogusz, Alexander van der Woude, and Jordan Weeks, and that is all our drivers. And I think, honestly, if I was to say anything about this race, is the biggest mistake was Paulini not pitting in for tires. I think if Paulini pitted in for the wet compound, we would have a championship for Wopke Hoekstra. That was the deciding moment of this race. And with that said, that was exciting season, exciting race. And now it is a championship celebration for Milan. That couldn't have been any more close. A single mistake in... Well, to be fair, if Milan, although that would have been a gamble just as much, because Wopke Hoekstra's was a gamble, but it paid off in the end. Honestly, if Milan did pit in for tires, he would have finished in the same spot as Wopke, or as he is now. So, to be honest, I think that Milan had it, and he made a mistake to stay out on tires he was on, at least once he knew that the amount of rain coming down was so heavy. But with that said, this was exciting. And Wopke Hoekstra, Fran Lopez, and Borja Milan gave it everything, and I think they got in very good places. The only downside to Wopke's race will be his loss of championship. The upside to Borja's race will be that he is the champion. So Milan, again, crowned the champion of the series. I don't think I'm having many interviewees at the moment, but I'm going to give it another few minutes. With that said, let's see. Some of David Junt having a bit of a disappointing race, to be honest. Started in 4th and finished in 8th, but it's still good points, 8th place, and he will that means he will finish his championship up in 4th place as he started, I think. So I think he'll be happy enough with that. There was no way he could have caught to Paolini in that championship. And at that point, Schoten is behind Junt, so Schoten definitely not overtaking Junt in the championship. Filipakos will just... I think he's just about enough. Yes, he will be taking 6th place. Klont will be going up, I think, a couple yes, Klont will be going up a couple places. I think into 7th place, in fact. So he'll be overtaking a couple places. And at this point, I think I'm going to drag in an interviewee, and if we can get any more, as we do now, I'll get them in as well. That's what I was thinking. Well, here we go. Our interviews. Let's start with the, well, fortunate and unfortunate driver. Wopke Hoekstra. Well done on the win. Fantastic drive. A bit of a, I would have said a bit of a mistake from your teammate to not go on the wet tires, but to give you the championship. But honestly, I think you couldn't have done any more.
Yeah, of course, we tried very hard. And first of all, I mean, I was in 2nd and Borja was in 3rd before the rain started. So the rain was already quite a gift. So as soon as it started raining, I was like, okay, this is my chance. If I want to win the race, I have to go to the rain tires immediately. So that's what I did, and it worked out quite well. I was like, oh, this is gonna end so bad. And I was hoping that Dino would go in as well, but he didn't. But of course, that's his choice. And I mean, it was of course always gonna be a risk. But yeah, in the end, we got quite close. If anyone else but Nico was behind Borja, I'm sure I would have won it, because I watched the replay and you could see him holding back to not pass Borja.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I was saying that for a few laps already, that even though he did have the pace, it was, you know yourself, whenever you have a team play like that will definitely be to not challenge the championship as well. But of course, that's what happens. And again, well done. And finishing second in the championship by 2 points, I think is still a very good achievement anyway. Or is it 3 points? I think, yeah.
It should be 2 points, I think. 15. I was 17 behind, so.
Right. Yeah, that'll be it then.
Yeah, but yeah, I tried hard. Of course, the first race of the season, I didn't even expect to be up here, so I barely practiced for that one. So after all, maybe I should have practiced for that one and I would have won. But yeah, you can always find some moments where Borja also lost some positions or time up points. So it's not fair to say that he didn't do a great job. He did a great job and well-deserved title. And yeah, of course, I'm very happy that we won the Constructors title as well, Dino and me. So yeah, we did a great job. Dino helps a lot with the setups as well, especially in the first few races. He helped me out a lot because I was struggling a bit with the car.
Yeah, well done on the championship. Again, it was close to get both, but hey, one championship was better than two, so absolutely well done. And again, good job. Now, Thomas Hins, a bit of a a bit of a bad start to the race from the pits because of the park Fermi broken. But talk us through the race.
Yeah, well, basically, I tried to be a bit cheeky and put the 6th gear up a little bit during qualifying. I quickly realized it was way too tall, and it was like I was driving a tractor once I put in the 6th gear. It was terrible. So I thought I'll break the park Fermi to reset that and put it in where it should be. Thought it was worth the risk. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy, really. I mean, I didn't really practice too much at all for this one. And the car felt weird. I don't know. To me, that car feels really weird around that track. You're just in first gear so much. It feels really unnatural, but to me anyway, because I'm not used to driving in first gear too much. But yeah, so just decided to go to the pit lane. Looked like there was a bit of some incidents ahead, so probably would have got involved if I'd not done it anyway. So it's probably a good thing. Dodged them, was quickly up to like 14th or something already, or 15th within a few laps. And then from there, just kept working away. Had a good battle with David for a bit there. Tried to go side by side through Sector 1, which is interesting, but why have a bit of fun? Knew we'd both keep it clean, so it was all good. Yeah, and then the rain came, had a spin, unfortunately, which probably cost me 9th, but I'm not going to complain with the top 10 from starting from the pit lane. So, no, it was really good fun. I really enjoyed it. It was good to get just a solid race. Just the one mistake, really, was the only one I had. So, it was good to get a solid race to, round off the season.
Yeah, to be fair, the conditions look very tough by the end. I think I've seen also Dino Paolini spin in the final couple laps as well. So it's not like as if you were alone in that. And I think we have 2 more interviews to go. And I guess I will finish off the drivers first. So especially now that we have our champion, Borja Milan, here in our commentary booth. Well, talk us through the race and what you're feeling right now.
Hello. Well, I can't believe it right now. I thought that I will lose the championship in these last laps with the rain. I had slicks on the rain, and I didn't know if put the slicks or the wets or not. And I don't know how I finished here.
I think it was very tough, and I think I've seen you struggle out of that last corner every lap, just barely keeping it straight. So yeah, it looked very tough out there, and by the end, at first I thought that was very big of a gamble from Hoekstra to come in for a set of wets, and I think by the end we've seen how that gamble paid off, but it was very much a gamble. So I'd say you did right to just keep it steady. And mostly, it was just a lot of luck, I think, from what I've seen, from my perspective at least. So anyway, well done on the championship. And again, I think now we'll possibly move to the final interview with Matthew Allington. So talk us through.
Well, that was an incredible end to an awesome season, wasn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, it was edge of the seat, and I'd say it was fantastic. The battle between, even though it was not on track, between Milan and Hoekstra was amazing just to watch all of the top four battling, basically.
It's been a wonderful battle with Mazurek all year, and congratulations to them on the team's title, and commiserations to Wotka. They put up an awesome fight. They really made Borja work for it.
Yes, and definitely worked out pretty well. And honestly, I don't think anyone would really have anything against that championship going either way. It was so very close, at least in terms of the drivers.
I must say I'm thrilled. I might be a bit biased, but I'm absolutely thrilled.
Well, with that said, I think it's about time to finish this interview session / broadcast in general. So
I may as well. I should say congratulations to Borja.
Yes, that is definitely in place. Well done. Again, congratulations on the championship. And do any of you have any final thoughts after the entire season, essentially?
I would like to say respect for Missouri and for all the rivals.
Well done. And anything from you, Matthew?
Oh, I think I've said all I want to say.
Cool.
Thank you for broadcasting this. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, no, of course, no worries. And I'd like to thank Argo Teder for taking care of the cameras for us today. And again, thank you, and thanks a lot. Without you, it wouldn't happen. And I'd like to thank everyone here who's watching. And we will be back for, I think, the second to last round for our career ladder next week. I would hope it's next week. Otherwise, I'm making a fool of myself. Yes, it is. Okay, so yes, next week we have our Brazilian Grand Prix as per usual with the Formula Challenge on Tuesday, with the Super Cup on Wednesday, and Super League on Thursday, and that should all hopefully be broadcasted. And hopefully we'll see you then at the usual time, and I'll hopefully see you then. This was Atlantic Series, and this was me, Kacper Kolodziejczyk, and I'll see you next time.